It is Wednesday, and we are here for yet another installment of the Official Pink Couch. This is, right now we're at 2. We send all the love that we can to our third co-host, Miss Kennedy, who unfortunately is needing to attend a funeral. So please uplift her in prayers and thoughts. And interesting, today is the 8th day of February, where we are typically celebrating Black History Month, where we actually originally had planned to talk about a completely different topic that I can't even remember the premise of, because we are here today and on the heels, on the backs, on the life of the killing of another Black man, Tyree Nichols. But one of the things that, before we get into the show, as for those of you guys who are watching, listening now, and who will listen later, one of the things we want to be very clear about is this is a calling for mothers, for those of us who have come from mothers, who know mothers, because I'm tired of having these conversations. And I know many of us are also tired of having these conversations. We, interestingly, our first show that we started with Pink Couch a few years ago, we had yet another topic, and then COVID happened and George Floyd happened. And as I said then, I was telling the story of my experience that I was getting calls from a number of different people, and by the third call from one of my white friends, colleagues, sisters and brothers from other misters and sisters called and was asking me if I was okay. It took the third call for me to say, "What's going on? I didn't understand. Why are you calling me? Do you know something I don't know?" And and they said, "Well, George Floyd." And my response was, "Uh-huh." And then after a few more words, I was like, "Oh, because of COVID." And there was nothing else on any news channel. There's no new programming to be had. It was COVID all the time. Enter George Floyd. Yes, there was Breonna Taylor. Yes, there was Aubrey. There were other killings that happened at that time, but George Floyd was the one that really captivated our country, captivated the globe, and to me, I believe, set forth a change that we hadn't seen for a while in race relations. And one of the things, as I've been talking about it ever since, is that having this conversation with my white friends and colleagues about, wow, it's such a common thing where you have growing up as a Black young girl, and now as a mother to two kids, a girl and a son, a daughter and son. It was, there's Santa Claus, there's Easter Bunny, look both ways before you cross the street, say no to strangers, don't take candy, all these good things, and keep your hand at 10 and 2. It'll save your lives when you encounter a police officer. That just was part of the culture. And one of the things that also started to bubble up, particularly what happened with Tyree Nichols, is there is this collective holding of breath in the Black community when there is something newsworthy that is, there is a crime that is being committed. The Black community is holding their breath when they're looking at who might be the potential suspect or who might be the one who committed the crime. We hold our breath like, please don't let them be Black. Please don't let them be Black. Please don't let them be Black. And then we have a sigh of relief. It's an untold, common held breath that we have. And forgive me if this sounds crass, but let me say it and then kind of clean it up if I can. When I found out about Tyree Nichols, and I haven't watched it, will not watch it. That's just not something I need to see or do. There was the collective breath that happened, and then when the five faces of Black officers appeared on the screen, at first I was like, oh man. And that was a short-lived oh man, because it was quickly followed with a good. Now maybe we'll move from bad apples, let's get some training, to how do we fix the systemic problem that is in our judicial system. And until we can get to the root and not label police officers as good and bad, racist or not, are there? Absolutely. Will it be in the future? Yep. Black people, and we will bring on a person who is more expert than I. Just by definition, we can't be racist because we're not in a position of power to hold that over another race, is what I've been taught. So she'll correct me, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it's really around, if I may for a minute go the equivalent around guns, in the ongoing debate around should we do background checks? Should we, eliminate AR-15s, weapons of war? And the opposition to that is that won't help. There needs to be mental health. That won't help. There needs to be just as the judicial system, just as the education system, just as the financial system, just as the healthcare system, just as the housing system, these are complex problems. And no, there is no silver bullet. There is no throw a dart and all things will be great. It is a complex problem calls for a really thoughtful and systemic approach. And so today, while the catalyst to this conversation is Tyree Nichols, we want to go beyond that, and we'll spend our time in that today. So let me pause there, and EJ, this particular topic is called human. Why? What is it about that topic that resonates with you?
So a couple of things, and in case you haven't noticed, we're actually together today. We're actually sitting together on the couch, and that's part of the beauty of the conversation that we're having today. Why human? Because everything that we are talking about has to do with people and preserving humanity, and what happens when you forget about the human. And a conversation now becomes about inhumanity and treating people inhumanely. And that's really what got us here today. We are talking about the people, the humans behind the actions, the human of Tyree Nichols, the human of his amazing mother, the human of the other mothers who have been impacted by tragedies and chaos that's like this, the humans behind the officers, not the systems, the humans that enable the systems to be at work. And quite frankly, I'm tired of this conversation. I'm in a new place now where I used to worry about my father and my brothers and my extended brothers and networks going out and not coming home. Now I think about my daughters. I think about all that's around us and what we as women, we as mothers, we as sisters, we as guardians can do. Women are the foundations of movements. We're the foundations of change. When you think about the end of, of any movement in history, it really started with the foundation of women and women coming together and organizing and galvanizing, getting beyond ego, getting beyond and focusing on the situation and the how and what's going to make it better and how do we come together to do that. So that's really the crux of us coming together today. We want to talk about the humans and the humanity behind all of the things that are going on, that are happening today. And in this month of love, this heart healthy month, this month of Black history, we also need to talk and focus on the humanity of the issues and the people surrounding us each and every day. So, Robin, why don't you? I want us to jump into this conversation full throttle. So, why don't you welcome the amazing lady that we have joining us today?
Yes, I am honored and privileged to introduce someone who's become a fast friend, Miss Kelly McElhaney, and she is on the Berkeley Haas faculty.
Go Bears!
Oh, good.
Yay. Go Bears!
And she is, she's a distinguished teaching fellow. She's the founding director of the Center for Equity, Gender, and Leadership, affectionately known as EGAL. And we met actually not too long ago by a colleague at Spencer Stewart, who brought us together for an event that they were doing, and some of the great work that they're doing in advocating for women's rights. Roe v. Wade, I believe, was the catalyst. Absolutely delighted to have you, and we're going to jump right in with Kelly. What is it about your experience, your story, that led you to wanting to be here today. And let me go right before you answer that. There is, as we don't always have guests, but we probably have them about 70% of the time. And this one was like probably the fastest yes. She's like, I'm in. Now, what are we talking about? So,
looking back, I should have asked the topic first. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the trust. I love the trust. Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. I have trust, and we have a mutual acquaintance who I would probably never say no to be honest. And I already did you and met you, Robin. So thank you both for having me here. I'm actually nervous, and I'm just going to own that up front. It's Black History Month. Another Black man has been murdered at the hands of our police system. We should be celebrating. We should be doing nothing other than celebrating Black history and Black History Month, as well as every day of every year. And just the juxtaposition of the two of them together makes it even more inhumane. Everything about this is inhumane. But I think I'll start with a little story just quickly, because I happen to have I forgot that they were here. I'm in my Haas office, which is why I can't be on the couch. I would so much rather be on the couch, but back-to-back meetings today. But when I first started doing research, and it was primarily at that time around women, and what happens when you have more women in leadership in the business world. I was doing some traveling in Africa, and in one of the circles in which I was sitting, a Black woman turned to me and asked me a question, and it had a huge impact on me. She said, do you know what lions get up and do every day in the jungle? And of course, ignorant me, I don't know, they go find food and hunt and all that sort of stuff. And she's like, no, this guy gets up every day, and let me tell you what he does. He walks over to the biggest shade tree in the jungle, and he lies down and takes a nap. She said, it's actually the lioness. It's the mom who gets up, hunts, gathers, maims, gets the cubs up from their slumber. And so my research at that moment, it didn't go over really well in the academic world, because academia is not super into cool storytelling. But I called my research for a short period of time the lioness factor. And it was really what would happen if lionesses were in charge of the business world, because I was staying true to my area. And now when I, Robin, after you reached out to me, and EJ, looking back at some of your other podcasts or video casts, it really comes back to me that maybe we call this the lioness factor. I mean, because the world would look undoubtedly different if lionesses were truly in charge, not just charged with doing the work she does every day, but paid for doing the work. But being the CEO of the jungle, right? If movies were made about her, not, the Lion King, who's the king, really?
Oh, Kelly, you're coming to sit on my couch, whether we're on camera or not. You are singing to my soul right now.
You are flipping the cushions on the couch. I love it. And I would be remiss if I didn't dive in a little deeper into what is with the nervousness about being here. What's behind that?
Well, I'm going to be real. And thank you so first of all, everybody who's watching and listening today should know that I sent these two women a picture of me first thing this morning.
Which made me love you so much more. And notice I didn't send one back. I did not send one back.
I just was scaring them of what I could come and look like. But I did clean up a little bit. But I work. The world's complicated. The country's complicated. Higher education's incredibly complicated. And what I'm saying complicated, I'm really just going to name it around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And primarily the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, oftentimes I go through life thinking that I work in the enlightened world with, being on campus. This is where free speech, EJ, you get it. This is where it happened, right? We got it. We're far ahead in our journey. And I really try hard to check myself constantly. I do teach this. I've been told I cannot call myself an expert in DEI and B, so I'll just be literal. I'm a leader in DEI and B. I'm a practitioner of DEI and B, but I do use my voice a lot, and I use my voice on Tyree in a piece that I wrote last week from my center here, which is Center for Equity, Gender, and Leadership. And it wasn't my voice; it was a conversation I was having with one of our MBA alums, Olashani Bello, over the weekend about Tyree. And when I was trying to think, how do I speak up? Because here's what I observe. I'm just going to own it. What I observe happens every time after another Black body is killed by the police. is we get the performative, at least I'll just talk about higher ed. We get the long, first of all, I don't read them because they're about 7 scrollers. And so I don't read any emails that cause me to scroll. It's the performative. We denounce this. This is not what we stand for. These are not our values.
Right.
It's the list of things to read. It's the list of places to go get mental health or self-care. And I just somehow woke up after this one and thought, I can't do that. I think we just got to get real, right? So I wrote this piece. I won't talk about the piece. You can go check it out. But it caused harm. It came to my attention through multiple different channels, not all of them, most of them not direct, that it caused harm to individuals here at Haas. And if I put it into categories, one, there was a perception that I'm not Black and I shouldn't be speaking during Black History Month, even though I wasn't talking about Black History Month. Number 2 is that I'm white and I shouldn't be talking about the Black experience in America. And number 3, I made some mistakes. We posted a picture, Ola Shani and I were friends and we were smiling, and that was the absolute wrong. I can't even imagine how we didn't catch that. I said something to Ola Shani that I was just profoundly, I just said, my white fragility, Ola Shani tells me in this moment, literally, and I was writing in that moment, I don't know if I could survive being Black in America, not because of the police brutality, which would be a factor, but just, I don't have the resiliency. I don't feel like I have the resiliency that I see Black people express. And that was told to me that I was pitching the Black race as being superhuman. And I do understand, I was sent some articles to read about what happens when Black people present with pain at the same level as a white person presents with pain in the ER, and how you are perceived as not having as much pain, and that has absolute health implications. But it was just, it's tough because I'm being told I can't speak out on racism. I can't speak out in Black History Month. And yet I'm leading in this space, and God gave me a voice, and he gave me a voice that I literally get paid to speak. I mean, it is part of my superpower. I like being on stage and imparting words, and it's just been whiplash. So you all inviting me here to speak back on the topic that I'm really in some hot water in my job, speaking out. So yeah, I'm super nervous, and you gave me the grace, and I think you said it in our exchange, you gave me the grace of saying you deserve to be here. And even the irony of a Black woman telling a white woman, when we have really looked at feminism as a white woman's movement, the irony is not lost on me, both of you, that you are inviting me into this space when for a long period of time, even if, of course, today, white women have not invited our Black sisters into the space. So thank you for that.
I so appreciate your vulnerability and you really going there with us today, Kelly, because this is why we have this conversation. It's not comfortable, right? And you're obviously not comfortable now. And guess what? That's a beautiful thing. And you know what? May not have been fully in love the people who approached you to correct you or to, give you the grace that they so thought you needed. But if we don't open our mouths and have these conversations, then we're all sitting and living a lie. So I appreciate you putting yourself out there and enabling yourself to be to be the target. And that's, that's a little bit of where we are right now. And I really want to ask you, I want to stay here a little bit longer because you talk about the work that you're doing and you're in this interesting space of you have a voice, but you have to be mindful of how you use your voice. So when you think, what has most surprised you or pissed you off, quite frankly, in the work that you're doing?
The lack of ability to have conversation. Everybody's so quick to use the word harm, and I don't want to minimize harm. Like, look, let me just say it once, and hopefully everybody will hear it every time I speak. I'm a straight white woman who has a high degree of power and privilege. And I just find it so quick to race to the word harm, which just puts a chill. Like the word harm on our campus puts a chill out immediately because I'm not tenured. I could lose my job. I don't have tenure to hide behind. It's the first time actually in a really long time because there have been students and staff members who have said I shouldn't lead this center. I'm not qualified, to lead this center. So it's the first time, I've really thought, gosh, I could lose a job. So Robin and, EJ, we're going to have a meeting later this month.
Right. We know some people.
I'm not going to be dumb, right? I need to be smart, but I'm not going to shut up. Like, that's the thing. I'm going to learn. I do understand the superhuman.
Mhm.
I read those readings. That was a beautiful way to tell me to do the work to understand why that was dangerous. I think on that particular issue, one thing that just shocked me, it's just very tangential, or not tangential, very tangible, is when Ola Shaney and we polished up our text exchange because we swore a lot and we just didn't think that was for public consumption.
Mhm.
But I think in my text to Ola Shaney, I said something about the Black race being just like this quintessential superior race. And he's like, yeah, you're going to really anger a lot of white people with that. And then I was running and I was thinking to myself, actually, Hitler said superior race. So I need to get rid of that word on every
Right.
level.
Mhm.
But I think it was shocking to me that it wasn't the white people who had the issue with me saying that I felt like the Black race is resilient. And Ola Shaney responded back to the feedback that we got. He's like, look, I'm 43. The narrative that I've grown up with is that the Black race is the inferior race. So please call me resilient all you want, because that's not the narrative that was the norm for my life. I guess I'm just stupefied that we don't approach people with curiosity.
Oh, there it is.
It's
There
there's
it is.
so much. I mean, and that goes back to what we're talking about, human.
Yeah.
And the we're not, you can't do a brush stroke and expect to acknowledge, incorporate every single person. We are individuals, we are humans. And yes, there are some, broad statements that can go out there, but at the end of the day, we have to take things one conversation, one person at a time. So,
Yeah, and to pull on the grace string,
Mhm.
I find that because I imagine there might be some folks that would be like, I can't believe in Black History Month they didn't bring on a Black person to have this conversation.
Mhm.
And to that I say the following with this thing first. One is we are not monolith.
Mhm.
We as a Black race, Black community, I am an African American woman. She is not. Kennedy is not. And people assume by what we look like that our experiences are the same. We're three people sitting on a couch today that are not the same.
Right.
The same could be said, all white women aren't like Kelly. And that's too damn bad. Because, which leads me to my second point. The main point is the lens and the view that I bring is that in order for there to be movement and change, I don't want to preach to the choir of folks that aren't generalizing, aren't in the position to mobilize resources, to make decisions that carry the purse string and the pen. Again, generalizing, we need allies. We need sponsorship. We need it in the civil rights movement. We need it in the women's movement part of civil rights. We've needed it for everything that mattered. Yes, women are at the forefront, white women and Black women. When George Floyd happened, and there were, I have a former colleague that he was one of the many who stood arm in arm as a barrier in between the police and those who were protesting peacefully, and I hate putting those two words together, that who were protesting as a protection. We need this is not an us issue. This is an us issue. We are sharing space as human beings on this planet, and we have gotten away from humanizing people. You are a human being that until I've only know one who is without fault and flaw. And I don't see anything wrong with anything that you said because I receive it from a place of intent. I receive it from a place of mission. I receive it from a place of allyship. I receive it from a place of you're pissed off. Yeah, your experience might be different than ours to get to the pissed off of seeing it, but it's enough. It's enough. And so, when we think about kind of the pivot from, as we were talking before, that there was this stair-step change that happened with George Floyd. And I will admit, I got a little desensitized. Not a little, I got very desensitized when George Floyd happened. It was, so he wasn't the first one where we had video of someone dying at the hands, knee of a police officer on tape. That wasn't the first one. But I was desensitized to it. Shame on me. I don't want us to be desensitized to a human. This is a human being.
Right.
Tyree Nichols, human being. His mother, Rovon Wells, a human being. They have names, they have heartbeats, they have lives, they have likes, they have dislikes, they have flaws, they have done all the things that we've done as other human beings. And we have dehumanized to other fellow citizens on this planet to the point where they don't matter. I mean, just don't matter. The gall and audacity to feel like you can take someone's life as if it has no meaning. I don't care what they look like.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's many of those lives that look like myself, my son. The audacity to feel like you have the authority, I cannot fathom that. And I'm tired of having this conversation. So,
and then every day you wake up to today, it was that he sent pictures. He took photos of him and sent them to, his girlfriend. It just, the brutality keeps layering over. He sent,
Right.
5 different people. And, the thing I'm really sensitive to making this about me and Berkeley. And I want to get back to your original question, which was basically, how do you solve this? Which was a little daunting to get in a text last week. And I'd already said yes. And then Robin said, how do you solve it? I thought, okay.
yeah.
But I did spend time I have spent a lot of time thinking about it. And one thing I just want to throw out there for you two women to think about is MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, has been one of the most successful sort of movements. And it literally started with moms. And so I thought, we need a MAD.
Yep.
We are MAD. We need a MAD. And I have 2 ideas of names. And then I want to shout out. So I don't love the first one, but I'll say them both and I'll tell you the issue. We could talk about Mothers Against Murder.
Ooh.
Ma'am.
Ooh.
It's got some good brand potential.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I got so excited when this was a girlfriend and I, by the way, riffing with a fair bit of wine to help me get through the past couple of days, but we really liked it. And then we thought, well, why do we have to say murder? Because one of my students said I re-traumatized her in the piece with Tyree because I used the word murder. But then when people talked about George Floyd, the situation, people got angry because it was actually a murder. So it was a murder. So, but then I have to think about this generation has a different tolerance level for what causes them harm or triggers them. So then, I was looking this morning at obviously the topic for today, inHUMANe. So what if it's Mothers for Humanity? It's not great. It's not a great acronym, MFH. But there's a there, right? And then the last thing I'll say between Mothers for Humanity, whatever title it is, or Mothers Against Murder, the sad data, because I do a lot of research, the sad statement on society today is that negative sells. Shock value sells.
Right.
Yep.
The single biggest predictor of a tweet getting retweeted is if it has a swear word or if it's slanderous. So maybe we go back to murder because it's going to shock.
I love it. You have a second career in marketing,
Come
unfortunately.
on.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that takes us to, and I can't believe we're already we're already,
We're gonna do
at the end of our time. We definitely have to do a part 2. But we like to end every conversation we have with a do something. And I think you've given us our first do something, which is how do we organize, ma'am? How do we do it? How do we organize, ma'am? And what is it that we need to do around there? And how do we bring allies together in order to do that? So really thank you for that. And happy that you kicked us off with that space. I would add 2 more, and Robin, please back me. I think the next one is have a conversation. It is okay to not have the same perspective. It is okay to be uncomfortable. Have conversations with people who look like you and have them with the people who don't.
Yes.
Have them with both.
I love it.
And when you have those conversations, number 3, show some grace. Show some grace for yourself and show some grace for the individual who you're talking with. We're not going to get it perfect. We are human. We are not perfect beings. Show yourself some grace. Engage in the conversations. It's okay to not be okay, but we need to not be okay collectively together. So, ma'am, we can get better together.
I love it.
Oh my God. So final thoughts. First of all, Kelly, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, right back.
Definitely need to continue this conversation. We'll go off and figure out what that looks like,
Mhm.
because this is not a one and done. I am, those who know me, and I know me pretty well, is that when I'm a dog with a bone, when I'm a lioness,
Yes.
I roar,
I'm
and I
in love
happen
with
to
the
be a
lioness.
Leo.
Oh,
I'm
that's
a
perfect.
Leo, and I'm a lion all day. And those who are in my, what do they call it? School, club, tribe of
Pack.
of
In your
lionesses.
pack. In your
Pack.
pack.
I know tribe is not okay, but we're talking about animals right now, so I'm trying to get the right word. Pack of lionesses to combat this, and that's what's the only thing that's going to change it. So I thank you. I wish all of you all again how do we have a conversation with someone who doesn't look like you and demonstrate the opportunity to have some absolute grace. Take this time as a Wednesday for reflection,
Mhm.
and then take tomorrow and every day after for some action. And with that,
Get on
thank
your
you.
couch.